So what are some tactics you can use with a subject who doesn't really want to talk or give you information? Let's find out in tip number 47 of 101 tips for interviewing and interrogation. Hey, welcome back. Stan Walters with you again on 101 tips for interviewing and interrogation. This is tip number 47. It'd be naive to think that you have subjects that will talk every single time. Some are reluctant for a number of reasons. One, they've already planned to lie to you. Number two, don't say anything and you can't be trapped in anything. Some folks are embarrassed. Some are extremely cautious, think they're going to be set up and trapped. So what are some tactics we can use with subjects who don't want to talk, but you can still get valuable information from them? One approach I want you to think about is what I call a yes-no interview. Yes-no interview. Now, in this tactic, what happens, remember we talked a little bit earlier in another episode about SUE, strategic use of evidence. I mentioned that several times. Go back and look several tips back now. I think it's like in the 30s or something like that. A strategic use of evidence, when to deploy information. This is a very good tactic, and it was one that was used by Hans Scharf, a German Luftwaffe interrogator during World War II. The concept, threefold here that I want to think of. Hans Scharf would tell the flyer, tell the crewman who was captured, he was being debriefed, or going to be classified by Hans Scharf. He would say, I need information from you. Okay, I know some information, I have some details, but unless you want to help yourself out, this has to come from you. So first of all, you put it in the subject's realm, it's in your hands. Either you succeed or fail based on what you tell me right now. Then he would ask 4 or 5 questions that he already knew the answers to. He already knew in advance what the answers were to the questions. So when the subject then lied about it, and he had an option, if he lied about it, he would catch him at that point and say, no, that's not right, and he would use evidence at that point to show the subject that he caught him lying. Now, then he'd ask the second question and look for an answer. And again, an answer he already knew the answer to, already knew what the answer was supposed to be, knew the truth. If the flyer or whatever lied, the crewman lied, he said, no, it's this. So what do you think happened about the third or fourth, fifth question that he would ask? Well, but then the flyer assumed that Hans Scharf wasn't asking unless he already knew. So I took a little variation of that. I had a case, and again, I've used this several times since I've used this, worked very effectively. And I said to the subject who doesn't want to talk, so tell you what, you want to help yourself? Let's make this simple. I don't want to waste my time, don't want to waste your time. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you a question. All you have to answer is yes or no. I don't need an explanation. Don't need a full-blown description or anything else, just a simple yes or no. And I would ask questions I already knew. For example, and that's the one I use in class. It's the first time I ever used this. Have you ever met this girl before? And we get the guy to say on tape, no, I told you I never knew, but no, just yes or no. That's all we're going to do. By the way, remember, I'm taping this, recording this for good reason. You'll see a little bit later. Then ask him, have you ever, this girl ever met your mom? And I would get a yes or no answer from him. Where do you work? I work for Johnson's Lumber, whatever, okay? How long have you worked there? Several years. Mr. Johnson ever finds you in his house, old broken down trailer in the back of his property, threatened to fire you because you weren't supposed to be in there? And I get a yes or no. So I'd ask him all these questions I already knew all the answers to. And all I would limit him to was a yes or no. Now, in some of them he tried to explain. I said, no, we're not going to waste time. Just yes or no question. That's all we're going to work with. So after I got done with in this case, this lucky number, it turned out to be 13 questions, I already knew pieces of the answers to. I went back to the first question, kind of a variation of Hans Scharf. I said, when I asked you if your mom ever knew this girl, met this girl, and you said no. I have a statement from your mom that says you brought this girl to your mom's house 2 or 3 times before you went on a date. Is your mom lying? Did see what the trap is? Because now he's realized he's been caught. They said, you said you worked at Johnson Lumber. He said, Mr. Johnson caught you living in a trailer in the back of his property. He didn't want you in there. He caught you in there ready to fire you. You said no. I got a statement where Mr. Johnson said, here's his side of the story. And I tell him what evidence I had. And I went back through each one of these things that I already had a yes-no answer from him. When it began to pile up and realized I caught him in so many lies, that's when he invoked Miranda on me. That's fine. Look what I've already got. I've asked a series of questions I already know the answers to. Gave him an opportunity to say yes or no. Simple explanation, that's all he needed. Didn't have to give me a description, yes or no. And I would get those answers. When I went back, showed him I have this, I have this, I have this, he realizes that he is essentially has painted himself into a corner. Then all we had to do is go to the grand jury and say the subject was asked this. He said no, here's it. And we played the tape of each question I asked him at each point where he lied. And went all the way through the 13 questions. How long do you think it took the grand jury to indict him? Oh, in a heartbeat. In fact, state police told me that the grand jury adjourned at like 10:30, 10:45 to get the free lunch before they came back to vote on indictment. So think of that as a tactic. Be creative as an interviewer. Don't think that you have one single tactic, one single approach. If that fails, nothing's going to work. One of the things we work on in practical kinetic interviewing and interrogation is when you leave the 5-day class, you have 5 working tools you can use. There's always something you can fall back on. You're never going to have to wing it. You're never going to be caught off guard, never going to be caught without something you can't put into play. So think about application of how you might use the yes-no interview, asking questions you know the answers to, have the subject say only yes or no, get him to commit at the beginning. Will you be honest with me? Make sure you have it on tape. Don't call his hand until you've asked every single one of the questions and got his elicited a response. Then you go back and you pinpoint each area. That's what a narrative interview is. Just a different variation, but very effective in completely destroying the subject's credibility where you've caught them in all the points of deception. So think about how you can apply that and work that through your mind. Look at your interview before you go in. Look at your data. If I come across that point, how can I deploy this particular tactic? Very effective, non-threatening, non-accusatory approach. Again, be sure to hit like below. Feel please hit that like on there for me and join me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, LinkedIn. Make sure that we connect with each other because I want to keep getting course information out to you. So you want to be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also be sure to check the website for there's great resources there, on-demand classes, the textbook, Principles of Kinetic Interview and Interrogation, great pocket guide, The Truth About Lying. You can find great resources there for you to add to your library of work. Remember, my objective is that you become the interviewer that's the go-to one that gets all the information. See you again next time when we come back for tip number 48. Until then, be safe. Stan Walters, glad to be with you.